All right, let's go to Galatians chapter 1, and let's actually I'd like to read the whole chapter just so we can get everything in context. Is that all right with everybody? Okay. So Isaac, if you'll read the first 4 verses, then Jaden the next 4. We'll go around and then I'll...
Of Galatians
chapter 1.
Paul, an apostle, not of men, neither by man, but by Jesus Christ and God the Father, who raised him from the dead. And all the brethren which are with me unto the churches of Galatia. Grace be unto you, and peace from God the Father, and from our Lord Jesus Christ, who gave himself for our sins, that he might deliver us in this present evil world, according to the will of God and our Father. To whom be glory forever.
That's where Jaden starts.
Am I reading 4?
Verse 5.
To whom be glory forever and ever. Amen. I marvel that ye are so soon removed from him that called on you unto the grace of Christ, unto the other gospel, which is not other, but that be some that trouble you, and would pervert the gospel of Christ. But though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you, then that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed.
Good job.
As we said before, so I say now again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that ye have received, let him be accursed. For do I now persuade men or God, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Christ. But I testify you, brethren, that the gospel which is preached of me is not after men. For I neither received it of men, neither was I taught it, but by the revelation of Jesus Christ.
For ye have heard my conversation in time past in the Jews, religion. Sorry, it's got a dash.
No, you're good.
How that beyond measure I persecuted the church of God and wasted it, and profited in the Jews' religion above many my equals in mine own nation, being more exceedingly zealous of the traditions of my fathers. But when it pleased God, who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by his grace.
Verse 16. One more verse.
To reveal his Son in me, that I might preach him among the heathen. Immediately I conferred not with flesh and blood.
Very good.
Neither went I up to Jerusalem to them which were apostles before me, but I went into Arabia, and returned again unto Damascus. Then after 3 years I went up to Jerusalem to see Peter, and abode with him 15 days, but other of the apostles saw I none, save James and the Lord's brother. Now the things which I write unto you, behold, before God I lie not.
Afterwards I came into the region of Syria and Cilicia, and was unknown by face unto the churches of Judea, which were in Christ, but they had heard only that he which persecuted us in times past now preacheth the faith which once he destroyed, and they glorified God in me. So I got a question for you. Do you have, what is the verse? Verse 11. You said, but I testify you. Do you have testify or certify?
Certify.
Okay, I just wanted to know. The only reason why I ask is because even though I think we all have the 1769 version of the King James Version, there's actually a Cambridge reading and there's an Oxford reading where a couple words are just a little bit different. Nothing's different, but there's just a couple. So I was just wondering, because every once in a while, because Cambridge is the normal one.
Yeah.
And so every once in a while I'll hear something and I'm like, ooh, what's that? So that's all.
No, I just can't read.
Oh, no, no problem. Okay, so we are in Galatians 1. Now, here's some things. Let's go over what we learned last week. What do we mean by the word apostle?
Someone sent by someone.
Someone sent by someone. So this is where it's going to get a little tricky. Okay? Do you remember? I hope you remember from last time. When we talk about the 12 or the 12 apostles, what are we specifically talking about?
They were sent out by Jesus specifically.
Right. Okay. Now, before the word apostle was ever used in the New Testament, it was used in regular life. And that would be like a king would send a message on, and that person would be called an apostle. He's bringing a message from the king. Now, after the 12, the Bible still talks about apostles. Did you guys know that? Okay, like Barnabas. Barnabas is absolutely called an apostle. Now, would we say he's one of the 12? No. But he is definitely sent out with a message. As a matter of fact, I would say after the 12, the best New Testament definition that we have for apostles, and I put this on the group last week, is probably like a missionary, officially sent out. Now, I don't think we should call missionaries apostles, because if I call an apostle, a missionary an apostle, is that going to send maybe mixed signals? Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So missionary's fine. We're not commanded it has to be this name or that name. We need to, because we speak English, right? We need to give the word that people are going to hear. I can say, oh, that Isaac, he's so gay. Okay? Now, I mean happy. But I should know by this point in life that if I say gay, what do you guys hear, Jaden? Not happy, right? You hear something else. Do you get what I'm saying? So we want to make sure that the words that we use are easily understood. Now, churches. We went over the word churches. Okay, because here it uses the word churches. Do you remember the Greek word for churches? Anyone? Right, ecclesia. Very good. Very good, ecclesia. Now again, this is not a sacred term because it was used before the New Testament was ever written. It's the idea of a local assembly that has authority. Kind of like up the road, we have the Brimpton Council, parish council. They are complete in its own. They don't answer to the people in Aldermaston. They don't answer to they are within themselves complete. Brimpton Baptist Church is a complete church, okay? And it even says churches, plural, that in here, that there's multiple churches. Now it says there's multiple churches for Galatia because Galatia was kind of a region more than just a city, all right? And there's one more word that we defined last week, and that was gospel. Does anybody remember what the word gospel means? Good news. I would actually like us to maybe use a better word, a better term. Okay? The Greek word gospel is angelion. Okay? You've heard of an angel? That's an angelion, a messenger. Okay? Is A-A-U, not like A as in negative, but it's evangelion is kind of, because it's an upsilon. There is no V in the Greek language, but let's not get that nerdy, okay? You have the AU, which is the idea of good. So it's a good message. not just news. It is a message. And I want to kind of refine that, because when we talk about a messenger, an angelion, let's have that word in place. Now, let's get to this. Do you remember what we discussed? What is the point of the book of Galatians? What is the overall thing that it's trying to teach? What is salvation? Yeah, go ahead.
Was it they were teaching the wrong teachings?
Okay, they certainly were. By the way, in most of the books of the Bible, they are teaching the wrong teachings, and Paul is correcting them. Okay? Here, it seems to be very extremely serious, because what is the false teaching concerning? Is it concerning whether or not women should be wearing hats in church?
Don't look at me.
You're looking at me.
Why don't you put your hand up and give an answer?
Jaden?
Well, I do.
Oh, I thought you lifted up your hand.
No, it's not to do with head coverings.
Okay. So what is it supposed to do? Give you a hint. Gospel.
A message.
Okay.
8-9, read verses 8-9, chapter 1.
The problem is that there was a group of people, we'll call them the Judaizers, and they said there is no salvation by grace alone. Salvation by grace alone, faith alone, doesn't exist. You have to, that's nice, that's a good start, but then you have to keep the laws. You have to keep certain dietary laws, you have to keep the circumcision laws, you have to keep these things. Okay? And so this whole book is that if you try to add anything, any type of work to the gospel, it's not a gospel. It's not a good news. So much that he says, anybody that teaches you another gospel, let him be anathema, or let him be cursed. Let him go to hell. This is as serious as this gets, okay? So we're now... we ended in chapter 8, where it says, though we, or an angel from heaven, that is the angel Moroni and speaks to Joseph Smith, or some type of angel in a cave that speaks to Muhammad, any angel from heaven, preach any other gospel unto you, which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. Now, look at verse 9. Here's the important thing. He literally repeats the same thing. As we said before, so now I say again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that ye have received, let him be accursed. Why do you think he mentions it twice, one verse after the other?
Well, obviously to emphasize it and to make sure they don't do it.
Okay. Yeah, everything that you're saying is perfect. There's emphasis, and there is no mistake what he's saying. One, he gives this kind of big idea. You've received the gospel. You have received the gospel. And if anybody is trying to teach you a different gospel than the one you've received, that person is from hell. And that's where that person's abode is. Because no Christian can, filled with the Spirit, teach a different gospel. Now, can they try to experiment in their mind and figure it out and get it out wrong? Yes. I think that's possible. Okay, I remember one time, one of my sons, I won't mention which one, but he was trying to explain, how people sinned. And he says, Jesus, he did wrong. And I'm like, hold on a second. And we talked about it. He's like, yeah, that was a dumb statement. That was, so it's not bang, you lost your salvation or something like that. But these guys have been sneaking, going behind. When the Apostle Paul goes to places, he leaves, and they are teaching something completely different. Again, there's a really good book called The Silas Diaries. The guy the guy doesn't get his ecclesiology doctrines right. He believes that every city just has a church, okay? But he believes the gospel. But he writes a really good biblical fiction idea of what goes on. And, I mean, imagine we're given the gospel to, and somebody at our church gets saved. And then somebody hears that they get saved, and so they say, hey, let's have a Bible study at my house. And everything that we taught them about the gospel at their Bible study, they teach them just the opposite. Is that beyond imagination that could happen? No, that happens sometimes. Sometimes cults get into churches to do that very thing. And so they're having this where the gospel is clearly given, they're receiving it, and other people are saying, Paul is messed up. Now, here's going to be one of the great accusations. Paul has made a mistake. Paul's not a terrible guy, but he's just not given the full gospel. We know the apostles, and we know for a fact that what we're teaching is true. Now, verse 10. Paul says this, for do I now persuade men or God? Or do I seek to please men? For if I yet pleased men, I should not be the servant of Christ. So now he's making an argument. You guys know who I am. I've spent time with you. And so he asks him this question. If I'm with you, am I trying to persuade you what is truth? Or am I trying to argue with God what is truth? And that's kind of a rhetorical question. But if that rhetorical question is answered, what would the answer be?
Trying to persuade men. Yeah,
trying to persuade men, trying to convince men. But is he trying to, but then he says, am I trying to please men? Is Paul trying to make everybody happy? No, not at all. And the point, what do you think the point is that if I please men, I should not be the servant of Christ. What's the big emphasis he's making, Evie?
If he was to please men, he would just say whatever they wanted to hear and not the gospel of Christ.
Right. That's perfect. Has he been persecuted before this? Has he been stoned? Has he been, left for dead? And so now he's kind of having a little bit of a laugh here. He's like, all right, am I really trying to please men? And then he says, if I try to please men, I'm not a true servant of Christ. Because if he's trying to please men, what is almost the next thing that he would be saying about when people are preaching Jesus plus works, if he's trying to please men? What would he feel about Jesus plus works if he's trying to please men?
What would he say about it?
Yeah. If his goal is just to make people happy.
Well, he wouldn't say that, would he?
But if he did, what would be his position if he's just trying to please men? Okay, let's say Caleb believes in salvation by grace alone. Does that sound like a good position? Yeah. And let's say Evie, because she's naughty, she believes, well, yeah, that's a good start, but you also have to do these works. If you don't obey the festivals, if you don't wear the headscarf, if you don't do these things, then you're not a real Christian. You have to do these things. It's not what a good Christian should do, but you do these things to become a Christian, okay? And I go, hey, listen, whatever you guys feel is right, it's okay.
Then there's no one right thing.
Okay, but am I trying to please men by saying that?
Yeah.
Exactly. This is what he's saying. He's like, am I trying to please men? If I'm trying to please men, because that's one of the accusations he's getting. If I'm trying to please men, I wouldn't care. Do whatever you want. Eat, drink, and be merry. Right? Okay, verse 11. But I certify, or testify you, whatever Evie's Bible says, but I certify you, brethren, that the gospel which was preached of me is not after men. What is this idea of certify? What does that mean? If something is certified,
You're qualified in it?
qualified, sure, that's not bad. That's really good.
I was given the okay.
It's given the okay. It's that idea. This is the discovered truth. This is as true as it gets. When you go for a recertification, they're making sure that you do the good thing. Not the shifty thing. And he's like, hey, listen, this is the certification to you, brethren, that the good news that I preached of me is not of me. Why does that matter?
Because then he's not trying to please men.
He's not trying to please men. Who is he trying to please?
God.
God. Because who's he a servant of? God. All right. So now he's going to set down some some foundations. Okay, and he's going to build an argument. Right. This is what when there's if you see somebody that's in a debate, they'll first try to lay down an argument and then they'll build on that foundation. So what is his foundation so far? What are some truths that he has said so far? That he's a servant of the Lord. Very good. What else? What isn't he?
Trying to please men.
He's not a man pleaser. He's not trying to please men. And then with that being said, what is the thing that he has received of God?
The gospel.
The gospel. Okay. So it says, I've received this gospel from God. I'm not trying to please anybody. I'm a servant of Christ. Okay. So these are the things. And here we go. We either say, yes, you're right, Paul, or you're a liar, Paul. Do you get that? Those were the only options that we have. All right. So then he says, for I neither received it of man, verse 12, neither was I taught it, but by the revelation of Jesus Christ. Who knocked on Saul's door and gave him, on door-to-door visitation and gave him the gospel? No one. No one. Zero. Where did he find the truth of the gospel? Does anybody know this story from the book of Acts?
Wasn't he a Pharisee first, so he didn't.
So he was a Pharisee, correct. And then later on, he's getting these, Paul is breathing out threatenings. Acts 8:1, and the church is being scattered. Okay, he's persecuting the church. Do you remember this?
And then Stephen's staying, and then he's on the way to Damascus.
There we go. Okay. So he may have heard the gospel. I'm absolutely convinced that he saw the crucified Lord being crucified. I have zero doubt about that. Was he a good Pharisee?
Yeah.
Where would he have been on the day of Passover? Where would he have been?
In the temple.
He would have been at Jerusalem, right? Mm-hmm. All these things going on. I mean, they weren't quiet. He would have seen it, known it. Okay, and I'm pretty convinced that this was kind of sport, even with the Sanhedrin. I think it's reasonable to say because of his position, he wasn't on the Sanhedrin at that point. I don't think. But it is reasonable that he was in on what was going on, if indeed his rank and everything is accurate, which I believe it is. Okay? And do you think he heard about the resurrected Christ? Yeah. Do you think he heard about Pentecost? Yeah, because if you were a good Jew, you're going to be there on Passover, and then you were going to be there for the 7 weeks so that it'll be a total of 50 days, Passover to the day of Pentecost. Pentecost means 50, right? So he would have been there. I believe, this thing was being preached at the Temple Mount. I believe he heard this. But he didn't get the gospel from any of these people. Who did he get the gospel from? Well, he was stopped on the road to Damascus, wasn't he?
God himself.
So, sorta. It's interesting that he didn't receive this revelation by man, but by Jesus Christ. But if you absolutely look at the story, we see how it was revealed by God. God says, go to this person's house, and he's going to give you the gospel. So God himself is saying, it'd be like saying, God says, read this page. Okay? He's approved of what is on this page. Do you remember whose house he went to? Anyone? Natalia? Do you remember?
Paul's? Peter's?
No.
Was it an uncle?
Was it an uncle? Nope. I don't remember either. I forget the guy's name right now, so I was hoping somebody else would get me out of this.
Begins with A, I think.
Let's see. The apostles delivered to prison. Stephen to his accusers. Simon this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. No. Let's see. It was Ananias.
A.
It was A. Very good. And Ananias gave him the gospel. And so when he argues this, he's like, I didn't just hear this from the road. Nobody, whispered this to me. God said, listen to this man, and this man's going to give you the gospel. Now, could he be lying? Could a human lie?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So how do we prove that he's not lying? Remember, he's building a case?
Oh, right. I thought you were talking about.
Well, he's saying God gave it to him.
Okay, yeah. So we're building a case. So look, here's his case. Look at verse 13. I want you to read verse 13, and I want you to tell me part of the case he's building. Verse 13, for you have heard of my conversation. Do we know what the word conversation means? It does not mean the way we're talking.
A turning down or back.
Conversation? Verse 13?
Yeah, a turning down or back, a wheeling about.
Keep reading.
And then the second one is in late writers and manner of life.
Manner of life, your conduct.
The conduct.
Okay? So when he says, you've heard of my conduct, you've heard of my manner of life, you've heard of everything that I've done. All right. So you've heard of my conversation, my manner of life in times past in the Jews' religion. How that beyond measure I persecuted the church of God and wasted it. So what is the very first thing he's arguing? To try to give evidence that he is telling the truth.
You've seen how I've been in the past.
Yeah. And so far, how is he describing his past?
He used to describe persecute.
Yeah, he persecuted Christians. He's like, it's not that I was on the fence about this. I did not believe in this gospel. I persecuted it. I tried to destroy it. Okay? What else? What else is the argument in verse 13?
He wasted it?
Well, yeah, but how about before he got to the Church of Christ?
He was a Jew.
He was a Jew. He says, I was a Jew. You know my reputation of being a Jew. Now, is he speaking to Jews here? Not really. He's mainly speaking to Gentiles. But he certainly, all right. This is how Paul went into a city. Who did Paul give the gospel to first? To the Jew first, and then to the Greek. The Jew first, and then to the Gentile, okay? This is probably how he did it. Being a Pharisee, with all of his robes and all of his gear, it was easy for him to just walk into a synagogue. Okay? Ooh, we have a very special person. Here's Saul. And Saul comes in, and he begins to teach from the scriptures. All right? And what topic do you think he just happens to want to be teaching about?
The gospel.
From the Old Testament. He's probably going to talk about the Christ, the anointed one, the Messiah. Maybe he talks about sin and how it builds up, the prophecies. Okay, so he's building all that up, and then he speaks about the gospel. And we read in the book of Acts that eventually the synagogues kick him out. They're like, you're one of those. Get out of here. And then he takes the message to the Gentiles. He's not completely ignoring the Jews. He went to the Jews first. But that big hubbub was heard. The synagogue almost murdered this guy. Let's hear what he has to say. So there's the argument. Now, verse 14. It says, he profited in the Jews' religion. Now, before we go on further, what does profited mean? Pardon? He gained, sorta. That word pro-kopto. Pro is advancing, for, okay? But it's not so much money. Is he was progressing. He was advancing. Does that make sense? Yes. Perfect. That's exactly what it means. He was climbing up the ladder. He was a Pharisee of the Pharisees. This guy was amazing. He profited in the Jews' religion. Why does he say in the Jews' religion? What do you think he's trying to separate?
The gospel from the religion.
Right, the gospel from the religion. Because, if you will, the gospel is just a furtherance of the Old Testament. It should not be a new religion. But as we know, in Christ's time, people worshipped rules and laws, and they forgot the truth. They forgot the grace. They forgot all these things. And so that's some of the arguments. So it says that he advanced in the Jews' religion above many my equals in my own nation. So what position does Paul have? Let's say it again.
He profited.
Well, he profited, but what does this mean?
He was quite high up within the Pharisees.
Yeah. In the Jewish religious leader echelon, he was up there. Being more exceedingly zealous of the traditions of the fathers. All right, now let's look at these words. What's traditions? Traditions.
Ancestral.
Okay, whatever the patriarchs taught, whatever the ancestors taught, I was more serious about it than my dad and my grandfather, than anybody in my family. Zealous, that's what the word zealous means. I was an admirer. I was eagerly desirous of it. Okay, so he's saying, again, I wasn't sitting on the fence. I was climbing up the ladder and with the and that's not a negative thing he's saying. But he was getting noticed. His words were being respected because he was very serious about the things of God. He was very serious about the Old Testament. He was extremely serious about it. And because he was so serious, he persecuted the church. He didn't persecute Gentiles. Right? Has nothing to do with it. He persecuted Jews. All right. How does this work? Because I want you to think, can you think of a biblical way where a Jewish man can go to Gentile nations and persecute people, arrest them? You're drawing a blank for a reason. When Rome took over Israel, Judea, Jerusalem, what does Rome demand of everyone? Obedience and worship. Okay? And what would the Jews do if they were called upon to worship an idol at this point? We're not talking about during the time of Judges. We're talking about right now. Did they go after false gods? Yeah. No. And Rome knew if we're going to have a people that we get to tax, we're going to have to make an exception. All right? So the exception was this. You follow our rules. You can worship your God. We won't bring in any false idols or anything like that for you to worship. But you guys stick to your religion. We get it. And we'll move forward. So why weren't Christians immediately persecuted by Rome? Because they were just a continuation of Judaism. Okay? But when the gospel is being preached, like Paul is making here, he has to make a separation. He says, listen, we are worshiping the Christ. We're not in that old Jewish religion. We're not. They're not even worshiping right. Well, now the Roman government hears some Jews are refusing to worship their God, is now worshiping another God. Now they can worship our God. And that's why Roman persecution happened. So when he went out to arrest people, he was arresting people, Christians, on behalf of the Roman government for rebelling against Rome. It's very tricky, very convoluted. Now, verse 15. But when it pleased God, who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by his grace. Now, what is he saying about his birth? What do you think, Caleb? What do you think he's saying about his birth?
I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah.
His mother would have given him over to the temple to grow up.
Okay, well, you're close to it. I think mom still had it. I don't think this is a Samuel situation. But it says, from his mother's womb, God separated him. What does that mean? First of all, is this a serious statement?
Well, yeah. He's saying God did something.
Yeah, I mean, if you go around, Isaac, telling people, listen, God separated me for his work before I was even born. Really? Right? I mean, this is a hefty statement. Does this mean that he was following Christ, that he was following God properly from the moment he was born? No. How do we know that? Because he persecuted the church. Listen, just because somebody is separated, as a matter of fact, I can think of another person that was separated from his mother's womb. Can anybody think of someone else? John the Baptist. He was pretty good. Can anybody think of somebody from the Old Testament that wasn't so good? Samson, right? Just because God separates you from the womb does not mean everything's going to be fine. Does not mean that you're always going to be doing the right thing. Yes?
What do you mean separates him from the womb? Could you just clarify?
This seems to be a special thing where God says, my hand is on him from the very beginning.
Oh, that I have something in plan for you.
Yeah. Now, you might go, well, doesn't he have a plan for me too? All right. So this is something very unusual. This is, again, when we talk about John the Baptist, just think about on God's whole universal timeline, John the Baptist has a very serious mark in there. Samuel had a very serious mark on there. Samson had a very serious... Do you get what I'm saying? And what Paul says is from the very beginning, God had his hand on me in a very unique way. From my mother's womb. This pleased God. Do you see what it says? Verse 15, but when it pleased God. What do you think it means when he's saying it's pleasing God?
To give consent.
Who got consent?
Well, obviously not Paul. Saul. Paul.
Who gave God consent to separate Paul? God. This is what it pleased God. God made this decision on his own because of who God is. Now remember, he's laying an argument. What is this arguing for?
That you should listen to what he's saying because...
No. Let's go back. Remember those pillars that he's arguing? That I'm giving the true gospel. Anybody that preaches something different is wrong. I do not care about man's opinion. I'm a servant of Christ. What is this arguing? Verse 15.
This has been the Lord's plan, his design right from the start.
Yeah, I am his servant. Right from the beginning. He's already said, like you said, Isaac, he's not always doing everything right. He says, God's hand has been on him in a unique way, and he's called me by his grace. Now let's go through this. Why does Paul say he's called me by his grace? What about Paul's life would say for God to call him is a very gracious thing? Because he persecuted the church. Because are there a lot of people that do not persecute the church? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. And so Paul's saying, hold on a second. If somebody's deserving, I'm not deserving. This pleased God. He had this design from the beginning for his gospel. And this is totally by his grace. If it's by his grace, how did Paul earn this? He didn't. Okay? Remember the full argument about the gospel? If anybody says Jesus plus works, Jesus plus anything, it's a false gospel. This gospel that I'm preaching is totally by grace. It's not by my design. I haven't made this up. And then verse 16. What did God's grace do? Look at verse 16. What did his grace do? You tell me. It revealed his son. Now, interesting, if you go and look up this Greek word, it reveals his son. This is actually the name of the last book of the Bible. Well, not Revelation. It's the Greek name. Can you pronounce it? Apocalypto. Apocalypse. Probably in your Bible, if you look at the, it'll either say the Revelation of John, but sometimes it'll say the apocalypse of Jesus Christ, the revealing of Jesus Christ. Okay? That's what the whole book of Revelation is about. It's revealing who Jesus is. Now here, it says that the purpose of God's grace is to reveal his son in Paul. All right? So how did Jesus reveal this? Search back in Sunday school. Search back, Book of Acts. How did this happen in Paul's life? How did the truth of who Jesus Christ is get revealed to Paul?
Well, he stopped him on the road.
Stopped him in the road. And he says, Saul, Saul. And Saul says, Lord? Oops. Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? So here, there is the beginning of the revealing. We'll also find out that it seems like Paul was personally trained by the Lord Jesus Christ uniquely. And he'll describe himself as somebody born out of due time, almost like a birth that is way too early and the child is not properly formed. So he says that this grace is to reveal his Son in me. Why? What is the purpose of God revealing his Son?
So we can preach among the heathen.
And who's the heathen?
Gentiles.
Is who he's speaking to right now. He says, by the way, Gentiles, you're the heathen. Galatia, you're the heathen. This is the reason why I was called. My whole purpose, right? And this is his argument. Ready? His argument, because the people are saying, Paul's not preaching right. Here, we're going to teach you something right. It's Jesus plus, you've got to keep all the Old Testament stuff. If you will, sort of what the Seventh-day Adventists do. Deal with that how you will. Though I believe that there's some Seventh-day Adventists that are born again, but anybody that believes that the keeping of the law brings salvation, it's very hard for me to cross that bridge. But it says that that his purpose is that he can preach him, Jesus, among the heathen. That's his argument. I was, from the very beginning, I am not deciding on my own message. God gave me this message. God revealed in an apocalypse. And he revealed to me in a very serious way who he was and his gospel. And Paul's saying, look, I'm either a liar or I'm telling the truth. I've been around you long enough, you should know by now. He also says that I've given you a gospel. I wasn't trying to tickle your ears. I didn't do that in the synagogue, and I certainly didn't do that on the streets. I've given you the gospel. And the purpose of me even leaving this high echelon up the Jewish religious ladder, the reason why I left all this, God wanted me to preach this gospel. So does he care about pleasing men? No. I mean, imagine you're in like Saudi Arabia, Isaac, and you get murdered for your faith. That escalated quickly, right? Okay. And God decided 2 days later to raise you from the dead. Pretty cool? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Do you think you'd preach a little bit softer or even harder?
Well, even harder.
Why?
Because I've died. Because I've died once, I wouldn't be afraid of death.
You're not afraid of death, right? And what do you know without a doubt now?
God's real.
Yeah, okay. I mean, this is great. I mean, so because of what you've experienced, you're like, man, I'm not scared. Him saying, God revealed this to me, I can't change this. I know for a fact of what truth is. And then it says, end of verse 16, immediately I conferred not with flesh and blood. Conferred. What didn't he do?
Listen to his flesh.
Well, it says, I didn't confer with flesh and blood. Who has he already conferred with? Who has already told him the gospel? God. So conferred means I'm not getting everybody's opinion. Like, okay, hey, I'm not sure if we should get new chairs in here. Let's confer with each other. If I say we're going to confer each other about chairs, what am I trying to do?
Get our opinion.
Get everybody's opinion. What is Paul saying he didn't do?
Get other people's opinion.
Yeah, I don't care about other people's opinion. It's kind of like, when if you were to die and God raised you from the dead and say, well, come on, I think you're being a little bit too much. Let's talk about it. Why talk about it? I mean, I have seen God face to face. He raised me from the dead. What is there to discuss? That's what Paul is saying. Paul is saying once he received the gospel, once Jesus said, you listen to Ananias, he will give you the gospel. He will give you the truth. What's the debate now? And that's why he says, as soon as I got this, I did not confer with flesh and blood. Why do you think this is an important statement? who could possibly most people say, hey, Paul, before you start your little preaching ministry, you probably should talk to these people first? What people do you think might get suggested to Paul to speak to first before he does any of these big ministries?
Pharisees?
No, not the Pharisees, because he's done away with the Pharisees, right?
The apostles.
The other apostles, like Peter and James. Did we read about Peter and James?
Yeah.
In here. We already did, remember? It says, let's see. Then after, verse 18, then after 3 years, I went up to Jerusalem to see Peter and abode with him 15 days. And other of the apostles saw I none save James, the Lord's brother. So we saw 2 apostles. Now, we'll see next week that he didn't go to the apostles to say, hey guys, am I believing the right thing? He already knows it's the right thing. But he does speak to them, and the apostles begin to look at who Paul is. And so he's setting up this foundation of here's the truth. Here's the reason why you can believe me that I'm giving the truth. And we'll do this next week, and you'll have the answer next week, okay? This will make you smarter than everyone else. Paul is, when he speaks about Peter and James, he might say, hey, if you don't believe me, guess who you can talk to? Peter and James. Because these Judaizers that are going around and saying that he's not preaching the real gospel, he says, you want to talk to Peter? I think Peter's a pretty good guy to talk to. How about James, Jesus' brother? You think he might, he's calling out these big names, not, I got permission from them, but I'm preaching the truth. Talk to these guys about it. Does that make sense? Okay, we're going to stop there. Next week, we'll continue. And any questions about this? I will remember to take prayer requests, I promise.